So I am walking down the main street of Hillsboro, and it's called West Main Street. And I'm going to go into an auto parts store that is part of a network of buildings that seem a little strange to me. So as you can see, the Auto Value Auto Parts store is in front, and then on the side of it are 3 garage bays, and that belongs to another business, and that is called Custom Collision. So you can see the auto parts store sign here, and underneath it is a sign that is very easy to miss. It is one of those signs that if you're driving by on the road, you could barely make out any of what it says. So I had to kind of walk right up to it and point the camera at it, and it says New England Custom Collision. So they supposedly are in the back of Auto Value Parts Store. But in my opinion, that sign is the absolute worst sign that you could select to advertise your business. People will not be able to read what that says as they drive by. Even their little icon, the little picture on the sign, I can't make out what that is. So they definitely do not want to attract much customers with a sign like that. This sign is very hard to read. So this building is right next door to the church, and it is called the Smith Memorial Congregational Church. So from this perspective, you could take a better look at this building. It is a very large building, and the 2 signs are almost unreadable from across the parking lot. You could barely read the auto parts sign, and underneath it, you cannot even make out what the Custom Collision sign even says. But it is a very large building, and if you notice, there are 2 vents, and black soot is coming out of one of the vents, and so much soot is coming out, you could see that it's all underneath this roof overhang as well. So I have no idea what they're burning in there to do this. I don't know what would cause that. I have an oil burning furnace here, and it has an exhaust pipe coming out of the house, and I guess you could see a little bit of soot on the inside of it. But I never get any of this stuff on the side of the house, and you usually don't see houses covered with soot coming out of a vent like this. I've only seen this a couple of times since I moved up to New Hampshire. So I'm guessing that if they had a wood burning stove or even a pellet stove, they would want to hook to a chimney. But whatever they are burning in there or sending through that vent shaft is causing a severe discoloration to the building. Next, if you notice, there is a group of houses that are directly behind the large auto parts and auto body shop building. It appears as if these houses are connected. I see 2 or 3 doors on this side. The lower part of the house has what looks to be like 3 doors. And then there is this house that sits higher, and it also has a door that is visible from the street, but they look connected to me. And what also is interesting is that the same color blue is used to paint the doors on both the house and this auto parts auto shop building. You could see that they're almost the same color. You could see that there's a blue door painted, I think, the exact same color, and even the siding on the house matches. So I do not know who would want to hide 2 or 3 houses behind a large, ugly industrial building, so that right in your front yard is the back of an auto shop building. It seems like these houses in the back here are almost hidden on purpose by the larger building. And I wouldn't be surprised if the same person owns all of these buildings. So on this side of the building are 2 garage doors, but above them are no windows. So it seems kind of like an odd way to construct a house with no windows on that side so that you could get better ventilation and better light into your house. So I really do not know what this is, but there is a shed, a gray shed built off the side of this building. And there is a power line that appears to come directly off the street, straight to a post that leads it to this shed. This shed seems to have its own electrical line. There are other electrical lines that are coming off the street and they're headed straight to the building and don't bypass this shed. And it has a sign posted on it that says, in case of emergency, contact Geo Insight Incorporated, and they have a number. So I called that up and a guy answered who identified himself as Mo from Geo Insight. So I told him I was looking for another company and I hung up. So I looked up Geo Insight on the internet and they have, in my opinion, many things written that seem slightly vague on what they do. But their company is involved with geotechnical engineering and analysis. So I went into the Auto Value auto parts store, and what I found inside also seemed a little strange.
From 6 to 8 p.m. at the Courier Museum of Art. Manchester. It's their Salvador music series featuring Adam as a group. Early and hanging the beat. And you're really half the tickets visit Courier.com.
Davey, in a minute.
Where's your oil, sir?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I think it's SAE 5W.
You gotta get the synthetic stuff.
It's always fun to people walk up and they go, they look at you.
Yeah. Get it back. All right. Thanks a lot. You got it. Have a good one. How you doing?
Good, how you doing, sir?
520. That's your economy blend.
Uh-huh.
And then it looks like it gets more expensive as we go this way.
Okay, sounds good. That's the, what's it called?
This stuff is Comcast of Abilene,
Uh-huh.
and this is Amalie. This is all premium. 520.
All right, great. I think I'll just take the economic one.
Sure, I'll let you help yourself.
All right, sir, thank you.
Pop that right on. Yeah, don't be bashful. It's a 6 volt.
Yeah, that's that one.
I got a note in the car too, I'm gonna grab.
Okay.
Purchasing a new Mazda, something you'll truly Stop by Warner Mazda, where you can lease a 2019 all-wheel drive CX-5 for only $210 per month.
So I went into the Auto Value Auto Parts store, and what I found inside also seemed a little strange, and that was the front room for customers. The aisles were like 5 feet long. It was the smallest front room to an auto parts store I have ever seen. And also behind the counter, there was very limited space. So I'm gonna pause this video several times so that the viewer could take notice on how bare everything was stocked. There were very limited products in that store. And if you go into an auto parts store in your area, what you'll find is a big room with long aisles, and then an even longer area behind the counter, usually with very long rows of metal shelves. And these shelves contain more auto parts that the employees have access to. So they have the basic stuff in the front room for you to pick out yourself. But if you need to find a specific part for your car, for the engine of your car, you got to go talk to them. They will look up what type of car you're driving on their computer, and then they would have to go into it looks kind of like a library of auto parts in the back and find what part you are looking for, and then they bring it up to the front counter. As you can see, there are these tiny little shelves behind the counter that couldn't even begin to stock a regular auto parts store. And you can see the store is just very bare. And you can see stuff missing off the shelves. You can see that they're only stocking one item, one piece of each item. There is a whole aisle that is dedicated to stuff like oil. And then underneath the front counter, they have even more oil and antifreeze. And once again, it's a few bottles scattered across this long shelf. So you would think in an auto parts store like this, with very limited space, it would be filled with all sorts of products. But it just looks like they're trying their best to fill it up with very few products. So if you look at these pegboards here, they have one item on each hook. So what usually happens is that distributors send a salesman in, and the salesman will go from shelf to shelf ordering what parts they're running out of. So any distributor that would go into a place like this would make sure that they have 2 or 3 products on each hook. They would never leave it that there's just one item left, because as soon as that gets sold, you got an empty hook and it looks bad. So whoever their distributor is has left the whole store in this insane state. It does not look like a competent or regular distributor is running this place. So they're not trying hardly at all to fill this store with products, which suggests to me that they really don't care about selling auto parts. So if you notice down here on the shelf directly underneath the cash register are these huge 5-gallon buckets of hydraulic oil. So again, that's usually something that you don't want to have right underneath the counter at a normal auto parts store. It just seems that they don't care about their limited space at all, and they're going out of their way to fill the shelf space with giant 5-gallon buckets of hydraulic oil. Here are boxes of, I think they're discs. I think these are sanding discs that are used to sand metal. And a box like this would usually go into the back room. It just doesn't look like something that they would market for the front of the store, because there's no picture on it, there's no advertising on it, and it's just this industrial cardboard box that is designed as a bulk box that someone would have to order or ask for specifically. A lot of people just won't know what that is in a plain cardboard box. So that's an odd thing to have in the front of their store.